People are disgusting creatures that leave trash everywhere. That's alright by me. I made some dumb choices back in the day. I spent a year or so locked away and now I can't find a job. Lord knows I'm trying. My mother, bless her, lets me stay with her until I can find something to pay my way. My hobby started when I was walking back home from a job interview. Even someone as dumb as me can tell you it was a no-go. When you have no job, you have no gas money. I walked everywhere, and when you walk everywhere, you see the amount of trash on the streets. I saw a beer bottle and a plastic bag to carry it home in, and I picked it up. The dime that I would get from it was nothing when you have no job and gas money. And when you're living off your mother at my age, you can't afford to leave a dime in the street when you saw it. I was lucky enough that I found another liquor bottle that was worth a whole quarter. Now, that got me hooked. I did keep looking for a job and found a part-time gig at a fast food joint. They treated me like trash and I was only getting 15 hours a week. But it was like that beer bottle on the side of the road. When you have nothing, you don't leave a dime in the street, and when you have nothing, you don't leave a job that barely pays you. In my spare time, I kept doing my civic duty and I cleaned the streets. Pop cans is a good market. People just throw them anywhere. Aluminum can be recycled forever. I learned that from the metal recycle guys, so it's always in some sort of demand. Prices go up and down on it though. Some days it's 60 cents a pound, and others it can be 90 cents a day. And it doesn't take much to make up a pound. Only like 30 cans, depending on the size. Now, I pick up cans if I'm walking home from work or I'm walking to work. I try and hold on to them until the prices go up, but sometimes we really need bread and a few bags of cans can pay for that. Anyway, that's the setup for why on my days off, I walk around in the woods. It's not because I liked nature or nothing. People are lazy. They go camping and they leave their trash. I make a pretty good amount off of picking up beer cans and bottles from campsites and high school parties. I got nothing else to do, so I clean up the rest of the trash too. Even stuff that I don't really make money on. I saw a dead squirrel with plastic wrapped around its neck once. A sad sight that I didn't like. I'm not a hippie, but I just got nothing better to do. Like, I'm in the woods, right? I'm walking to an area that's kind of out of the way. An old truck kids like to party in is always loaded with beer bottles and cans. I can always find something there. I'm just walking, minding my own business. I turn my head to look around and to make sure that I'm not lost. The truck is not on a hiking trail and it's easy to get turned around in the woods if you don't keep track of the markers, like the double fallen trees or the huge ass rocks. I was looking for the huge rock and I saw something. Now the forest didn't go silent or anything. Nothing happened when I saw it. It felt like something should have happened when you find such a thing, but it really wasn't a special moment. I just looked over and between branches and bushes, I saw a perfectly fresh looking head. I thought it was a mask or some weird toy, but it was very clearly someone's head. Just sitting in the middle of the woods, dead eyes looking up at the sky. At first, I did a double take, not being able to believe what I was seeing, and then a third take, and then I nearly got sick. Figuring it was best not to puke and ruin a possible crime scene, I forced it back down. And plus, I didn't want the cops to think that I was some sort of wussy that pukes over something like this. It wasn't even that bad looking. At the distance I saw it was at, I couldn't tell if it was a guy or a gal. Only that they had short hair and pale skin. This was not my place to butt in. I would go to the ranger station and use their phone to report the head anonymously. Wasn't nothing more to do with it. Backtracking through the woods, I paused every few feet to stick branches into the dirt, making a path. I figured these city cops that are going to come to collect the head won't be very good at hiking, and the markers would make it easier to be found. And that was my plan before it started to rain. It was only a little at first, but it made me stop and think how sorry that head was. It belonged to a person once, and now it's in the middle of the woods, being rained on. I cursed myself and decided to turn around to cover it in the very least. I had a brand new, never used, clear recycling bag that I could cover it with. I don't know if that would ruin the crime scene or anything like that. I had gloves, and I doubted that could be tracked back to me. I was walking back, following my own trail, when I smelled the worst thing ever in my life. It smelled like a skunk rolled around in other dead skunks. I hadn't smelled the head when I was close to it. Breathing through my mouth, I could even taste the foul air. I didn't see anything, but it made me worry. I somehow stumbled on the rest of the body. But it was strange that I hadn't smelled this when I walked in that direction to start with. I looked through the dense trees and listened to the light rain fall around me. I'd come out for a few nickels and dimes, but not for anything of this. If it wasn't so reformed, I would have turned tail and left. And yet, I was looking for some poor dead soul in the middle of the woods. And let me tell you, I didn't expect it to find me. Honest to God, I swear on my life that it found me. Mind you, my life isn't worth nothing to swear on. So I swear on my mother's life. She's an older woman supporting her no-good adult kid, so you know she's worth swearing on. And I don't give a crap if you don't believe me. Looking around the trees, I heard branches cracking. It was for certain footsteps. Expecting a hiker or a camper, I looked towards them to ask for help with the whole dead body thing. And I was greeted by a sight that made me want to puke all over again. Standing a few feet away from me was in fact a headless corpse. I knew it was a corpse from the smell and the look of the poor guy. Aside from the lack of a head, it was all in one piece. Its skin was all shriveled up like a mummy. It still had some rotting to do though, but it was mostly skin and bones. The thing didn't have a shirt on, only a dirty sheet tied around the waist for a weird sense of modesty. I tell ya, if something can look down your empty neck hole, no one's gonna care about your junk. I really doubted what I was seeing. I don't mess with drugs. I've seen what it does to a person. Even as it was coming closer towards me, I didn't move cause I was so sure it wasn't real. I must have adjusted to the smell cause I wasn't able to lose my lunch when it stopped in front of me. The thing was tall too. Even without a head, it towered over me looking down. Kind of. I said oh so very gracefully. What else could I say in this situation? I found a head. It's a bit too fresh to be yours. Just follow the trail that sticks back there. I stopped talking and flinched when it reached out and it took my elbow. I half expected it to rip my arm off and take my head. But no. It just held my arm in silence and it was half expecting something of me. Even through my shirt sleeve, its bony fingers made my skin crawl. But to be honest, once you got used to it, it really just felt like an old person's hand. It clicked that the thing wanted me to guide it to the head. I guess it couldn't see, but I had no idea how it heard what I said, or why I even spoke to a headless corpse in the first place. I forced myself to walk back following my trail with the thing matching my steps. I questioned all my life choices that brought me up to that moment. The sad thing was I was already doing what I could to fix those life choices. I was staying out of trouble as best I could. I was doing my best to get a job and to support my mother. I didn't run with the crowd of people that had got me into crappy situations in the past. And yet, I was still walking beside a headless corpse. I could have been having a breakdown, which would be a fair idea. But these things don't run in my family and I wasn't stressed. Not until I saw the head. Maybe that was it. I was in so much shock seeing a decapitated head I broke, and I was hallucinating a corpse to go with it. Seemed like a logical idea to me. But wasn't the idea behind mental breakdowns is you're not aware that you're having one. Oh well, it didn't matter. I wasn't going to change what I was doing. I led the corpse back to where I had stopped before. I didn't want to get closer to the head, and I was lucky enough that the corpse seemed to be able to sense it. It let go of my arm and walked a bit awkwardly towards the head. That looked like it was just sitting there waiting to be picked up. With the same motions of a blind man reaching for his glasses, the large corpse patted around on the ground until it found what it was looking for. I watched as it picked it up and ran a bony hand over the face. I wondered if it could see the face anyway, or even if this corpse had any brain at all. Seeing them together, I knew the head didn't belong to the corpse. It was too small and the skin tones were way off. It made me wonder where the head of the corpse was, or where the missing second body was. Was it also walking around the woods just looking? What had done this to them, and why were they even here? I was certain that I would never get the answers. When the corpse ran a hand over the head's face, I swore that I saw it smile. Its dead eyes stayed the same, but I felt like it was happy it had been found. I'll be going now. I took a few steps back to excuse myself from the whole thing. The corpse turned towards me, scaring me enough to stop for a second. It raised its arm and it gave me a little wave. You would think that I would have stayed out of those dang woods after that. But like I said, it's a good place to get bottles and cans, so I still go. I didn't report what I had seen cause I had no head and no proof. I do check the missing cases from time to time, trying to see a face that I recognize. I've heard stories from the campers who had started to recognize me. They gave me their bottles instead of taking them back themselves. Some story about a monster ripping heads off unwary campers and adding it to a collection. There had only been one corpse found without a head in the past 10 years, and that was enough to start all the stories. But the corpse had been found with a lot more things missing, and they even found out who it belonged to. But still, it became a ghost story. But I don't feel like that's the case. A monster ripping off heads, I mean. I think humans are the ones killing and dumping bodies out in the woods. Sometimes the bodies are found and sometimes they're not. Animals eat everything, even the heads. But the monster they're talking about, it might find those heads first. I think it's taken the heads to remember the faces of the dead. The faces that might never be found or put back together again. If humans found them, that might make them in an awful police sketch that might never lead to the person actually being found. I think it's a nice thought. That no matter what, at least someone is going to remember their face. That someone is going to know how they looked, monster or not. Or maybe it just eats them. Who knows when it comes to weird, headless corpses?